Hello, my inky friends. This is Carol Maynard from ohmyinkyfingers.com. I have some more paper pumpkin alternate projects. This is September's stamp set and all the wonderful little pieces that come with it. I'm going to do something a little different. I actually am going to stamp I have some ideas of cards, so we're going to work on that. I'm going to be using crushed curry, pumpkin pie, Cajun craze, and soft suede as my ink. Believe I better bring in a piece of scrap paper because we are going to get inky. These are all the colors that I'm going to use at some point in time tonight. So I'm just going to keep them open. Hopefully nothing gets in them that's not supposed to get in them. Cut this off of the side of that flyer that came out with our paper pumpkin. I'm actually going to use that. I promised you I would. So also going to bring in the leaf punch, or I'm sorry, the leaf stamp from Colorful Seasons stamp set. This has a lot of really neat leaves, and some of these coordinate exactly with our paper pumpkin that we got. So I'm going to use some of the things that are in here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp some of these leaves. I'm first going to ink it up with Cajun craze, and then I'm going to sponge with pumpkin pie and maybe a little Cajun craze. And I'm just going to put a few leaves going down here. I want to try and clean it off before I ink it back in my Cajun craze. And again, we're just going to try and sponge the edges. Okay, I just wanted to give this the illusion of falling leaves, and already I see that I got ink smudges, but that's okay because we are actually going to ink the sides of this up. So you're going to ink up your sponge. You're going to start coming in from off of your paper and come in and swirl. Gives it a nice blended look. Now we're going to come in with some pumpkin pie. Come in not as far. And now we're going to come in just on a little bit on the edges with some Cajun craze. Okay, I like that. All right, now let's see. How about we bring in a piece of this. This is something that I cut off the edge of the gold foil leaves. There was quite a bit of a margin here, so I went and I cut some of this off. So I'm going to use that. This does have an adhesive back. And I think I'm just going to put that right across the bottom. And we'll cut off the excess. I'm going to bring in this little scrap of paper that I used, or that I salvaged from the flyer that came with our kit. Fold that right over the top.
So I thought I would speed this video up a little bit. Otherwise, we will be here forever. I have 3 projects to get through in addition to this one. What you're seeing is me sponging the leaves because I kind of like the look of the dimension that it creates. And here I'm just putting some glue dots on the back to adhere everything together, and then I've tied a little bit of a bow with the twine that came in the kit, and there I'm just cutting off the top. So I also cut a scallop circle to go behind one of the circles that came in with the kit. So here I'm just stamping the thank you that also came in with the kit. I adhered that to the black scallop circle, and I'm going to pop this up with some of these little mini dimensionals. They're so cute. I absolutely love them. But before I do that, I suppose I better put my card front on the card base. So I'm just using some fast fuse and need to get that started. Sometimes that's the hardest part. So the fast fuse is super, super, super sticky. You see it stuck there to my finger. I'm adhering that to my black layer base. And this is a tip from Jennifer McGuire. I'm using some white craft foam, and I had applied a sheet of the multi-purpose adhesive to the back of that. Now I'm adding some fast fuse, and this will get layered on top of my Whisper White card base. Once that's layered onto the card base, now I can put my sentiment on. Just want to make sure that it's nice and straight. And there is card number 1. So now we're going to start card number 2, and I have some fairly large size post-it notes. And what I'm going to do is I'm ripping the sticky edge of the post-it note, and if I pull it towards me, I'll get a nice edge, a nice torn edge on that. So I'll do that to both sides. At this point, I'm going to take my sticky note and I'm going to try to make it relatively straight around along the one side as well as the other. I'm giving myself plenty of room to sponge in the center here. I'm bringing in my crushed curry, inking up my sponge, and starting a swirling motion off of my cardstock and coming directly onto it. That way you don't get any harsh lines, and if you keep it swirling, the ink will blend really nicely. So I've gone ahead and speed this process up a little bit. Now I'm adding the pumpkin pie, and I'm also angling it kind of down from the top right to the bottom left. Here's the Cajun craze, and now I'm finishing up with the soft suede. And of course I got my hands all inky. So I carefully remove the post-it notes, and it looks pretty nice. I love the torn edge look. I think that looks really, really sharp. I love how this looks. Those are my favorite fall colors. I'm going to bring in my Misty tool. This is a stamping platform. Those are really, really strong magnets, and that was a foam piece I just took out of there. So I'm positioning my card down in the corner, the far corner, and if you push it all the way to the side, you'll be able, I'm also positioning my sorry stamp. I'm a little off the screen here, but I think you'll still be able to see. I believe I end up pushing this up a little further. Yeah, see. So I'm actually adhering the sorry to the top of the Misty platform, and I'm going to come in with my Tuxedo Memento black ink, and I'm going to ink up the sorry. The reason why I'm using my Misty tool is because this is a fairly thick stamp, and I really want a nice crisp image. So I'm going to ink it up once. I'm going to flip it over and press it onto my card. And the nice thing about the Misty is that you can continue to stamp over and over and over, and it will be exactly in the same spot. And here's the second stamping. Gives it a very nice, crisp, clear image. So I'll remove that from the Misty. And at this point in time, I want to gold emboss the large leaf that came with our paper pumpkin kit. And I need to heat set this before I do any embossing. Ask me how I know this. If you don't heat set the ink, your embossing powder will end up sticking all over your card. So what I did was I went through and I heat embossed it, and now I'm bringing in my embossing buddy that is my anti-static tool, which will also remove any finger smudges or static that will ultimately have some of your powder sticking all over the card. So I'm inking this large size leaf up with Versamark, and I have just now brought in my Stampin' Pierce mat, which is a nice big piece of foam and will help with this photopolymer stamp. It'll put a little cushion behind it. Giving this a little CPR so I can get a really good image. And closing my ink pad because I'm sure something will end up in it. Something that's not supposed to be in it. So now I'm bringing in my golden embossing powder, and I do have a small little spoon here that I can use just to dump some powder onto the leaf. You'll want to dump off any excess, just flick the card and most of the excess will fall off. Anything that doesn't fall off, you can use a paintbrush and try and zero in on some of those stray embossing powders. So I'm just heating this up and melting the embossing, and it just looks beautiful. I love it. So now I'm taking the card front and layering it onto a piece of old olive cardstock. And from there, I will take a piece of white craft foam to lift this up. Instead of using 1001 dimensionals, I like to put a piece of craft foam. And again, that tip came from Jennifer McGuire. So this sorry came from the Sorry for Everything stamp set. And there's a lot of neat there's a lot of really nice sayings on that. Sorry to see you go. I'm so very sorry. Sorry for your loss. Forgive me. Sorry to hear you're not feeling well. Sorry I missed your birthday. Sorry for the loss of your furry friend. There's a really lot of neat, nice sayings on there. So now I'm taking this and used Fast Fuse again to layer it to my Whisper White card base. I decided it needed a little bit of something, so I tied a piece of the linen thread together. I believe I used 2 pieces, and then I just used my fine tip glue pin and adhered that to the card. And that's card number 2. Now we're getting ready to start card number 3, and this I believe, I'm not quite sure 100%, I think it's called like the sunbeam or moonbeam card. It's just starts off small at the top left corner, and then it kind of gets a little bit wider down towards the bottom. So here I'm just using ruler and a pencil to mark where I want to mask, and I'll be masking that off so that I can stamp my leaves inside that wedge that you'll be seeing here. Here's the mask that I use. And I just really just ripped up 2 pieces of paper and taped them down with some washi tape. So again, I'm inking the large leaf up in crushed curry, I'm taking some pumpkin pie, sponging around the edges on one side, and crushed curry on the other. This is again where you will definitely get inky, so you want to try and not put your inky fingers into your project. So I'm going to fast forward this again. I'm pretty sure you know how to sponge now by this time. Using the large leaves, and now I'm bringing in the small leaf, and it's really basically just stamping it in the yellow, or I'm sorry, the crushed curry, and then sponging some other color onto it. So I'm going to take it out from my mask and see what we have. Beautiful. I'm erasing my pencil marks. And then I'm going to use some more of those gold strips that I cut from the side of the gold foil leaf paper that came with our kit. And I'm removing the adhesive off the back. I'm just running this along the edge, and then I will cut off the excess that hangs over. This was a pretty quick card. I'm now adhering my front panel to a piece of old olive, and I'm basically going to put some of those leaves on that top corner, that top left-hand corner there. I'm adhering those with the glue dots that came in the kit. Here I felt that 3 leaves on this embellishment was too much, so I ended up cutting off one of the leaves, and then I tied a linen bow and stuck that right on top. Now you saw that I was sponging that. I cut that out, that label out with the everyday label punch. I cut that out of the pillow box, and just sponged it, and I did adhere that to the card with glue dots. Now I really wanted to have this thinking of you stamp, but it was too big for this, so I just inked up the thinking part. I cleaned it off really, really well. You want to make sure you clean it off well. And then now I'm inking up the of you part of the stamp and putting that underneath the thinking. It's just another way to, use your stamps. Now I'm adhering this with some fast fuse, and I'm going to put it right in the center of that everyday label punch. I'm using my fast fuse to adhere the card front to the base of the Cajun Craze, and this is a top folding note card. I believe it's 4¼ by 11½, scored at 5½, and that is our third project. This will be our last project. I'm making a embellishment for the top of a pizza box. Right there I have one of our Stampin' Spritzers, and it's only filled with water. I probably should have used alcohol because that does dry a little faster, and I dropped some old olive re-inker in it, and just going to shake it up and spritz it across the card. It really got wet a lot. It was just saturated, so I didn't feel like I was getting very good coverage, so then I ended up taking um, a paper towel and just putting it over the entire top of it and sopping some of that water up. But in the end, it actually turned out pretty nice. I do like the color that it looks really light here, but it did dry nice. I liked the color of it, so I was happy with the way it turned out. Since it was so saturated with water, I decided it would be best if I tried to dry it down a little bit. So I just used my heat tool, and it did dry. And it does have a food protective surface in the center, so you could put some cookies in here for somebody. But I think the color turned out really nice. That's was a light shade of old olive. So here I have cut out a piece of crushed curry cardstock with the layering squares, and put that on to a piece of early espresso cardstock. And here I'm showing you where I go to cut my leaves for the poinsettia. Um, Also cutting off some of the margin on the outside of the leaf because I really wanted it to just look like the poinsettia. So I did cut the center of the leaf out, and again I'm cutting off the margin of the outside of the leaf. And here's the last little bit of it. I'm cutting off the stem and kind of rounding off the centers. I did end up cutting 3 large leaves for this poinsettia, and here you can see I'm using the bone folder to give them a little shape. I'm curling them up in the middle and then kind of down on the ends. Here are the rest of the pieces that I had pre-cut, and I do believe I cut 3 large leaves. So now I'm basically just using my Tombow liquid glue and gluing just in the center and holding it down with my finger. This glue does dry fairly fast, so it is nice to work with. I did take the larger part of the leaves and I use those as my base for my flower. And then I'm adding some of these smaller leaves, or just going around in a circle and just pressing my finger down in the center. I'm coming in with some of the leaves, and these leaves I have previously sponged and used my bone folder to make veins down the center, and I'm just putting some glue on the ends there. I am cutting them apart a little bit. I didn't feel that 3 leaves on each side would look nice, so I cut them down, and I'm just holding it in holding it down with my bone folder. So if I had some faceted gems, I certainly would have used that for the center of this flower, but the only thing I had were the enamel dots. So I did put it in the center, but I felt that it wasn't going to stick. So I'm adding some Tombow liquid glue, just a little bit of it, and now I'm going to put that down in the center. And bringing my box back in, my pizza box, and I'm just going to add some Tombow glue to the top of this and put my poinsettia right in the center. These little mini pizza boxes are found in the holiday catalog on page 44. You get 8 boxes for $6, and they are 3 by 3. So they will hold some nice little gifts, or a cookie. I think you can give a couple cookies to somebody. That would be nice. If you are not a Paper Pumpkin subscriber, it's not too late. I believe you must sign up by the 10th of the month to get that month's Paper Pumpkin, and October and November are going to be coordinating kits, and I can't wait. I just can't wait. So if you need a demonstrator, I would be honored to earn your business as your demonstrator. So here are the projects that I made for this video. If you have any questions, you can email me at carol@ohmyinkyfingers.com. Until next time, bye!